council member can vote for 3 nominees. I will start with Councilwoman Littlefield.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Jeff Jameson, Diane Lester, Tricia Serlin.
Myself, Jeff Jameson, Tricia Serlin, and Neil Scheer. Councilmember Durham.
Jeff Jameson, Tricia Serlin, and Neil Scherer.
Councilwoman Caputi.
Tricia Serlin, Neil Scherer, Paula Sturgeon.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
Jeff Jameson, Tricia Serlin, and Neil Scherer.
Councilperson Millhaven.
Mr. Jameson, Mr. Scherer, and Ms. Sturgeon.
And Mayor.
Jeff Jameson, Diane Lester, and Tricia Serlin.
Thank you. Okay, Jeff Jameson, Tricia Serlin, and Neil Scherer have been appointed. Thank you. Judicial Appointments Advisory Board, 1 opening for a citizen rep position. The Judicial Appointments Advisory Board, JAAB, makes advisory recommendations to the City Council regarding the appointment and reappointment of full-time city judges. There is 1 citizen rep position vacancy and 1 citizen rep nominee. The appointment of the Scottsdale Bar Association rep position will be held at a later date. The citizen rep position is Susan Galpin Tyree. Ms. Tyree will be participating in this afternoon's meeting electronically. We're prepared when Ms. Tyree is ready to speak.
Good afternoon. Vice Mayor Janik and members of the council. My name is Susan Galpin Tyree. I reside at 11.
We're unable to hear you.
I reside at 13558 East Jenin Drive in Scottsdale, and I've lived here in Scottsdale for over 30 years. Currently, I work at the Center for Gender Equity in Science and Technology at ASU. I hold a master's degree from ASU Law and am proud to be counted among the City of Scottsdale Judicial Appointments Advisory Board members. It has been a privilege to serve as the JAB Vice Chair for the term ending this month. I appreciate the legal reasoning expressed by our attorney, judge, and my fellow non-juris doctor board members as we complete due diligence for the city's appointments and reappointments of its judges. It would be a distinct privilege to serve a 2nd term. We have more work ahead in 2022. Thank you for your kind consideration.
Thank you, Susan. Does anybody from council have any questions? Seeing none, I will now entertain a vote for the Judicial Appointments Advisory Board. Each council member can vote once. I will start with myself, and I nominate Susan Galpin Tyree. Councilperson Durham.
I would vote for Susan Galpin Tyree.
Councilwoman Caputi.
Susan Galpin Tyree.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
Susan Galpin Tyree.
Councilperson Millhaven.
Ms. Galpin Tyree.
Okay. Mayor Ortega.
Susan Galvin Tyree.
And Councilwoman Littlefield.
Susan Galpin Tyree.
Susan Galpin Tyree has been appointed. Thank you. Tourism Development Commission, 2 openings. 1, an industry rep, and 1, a Scottsdale hotelier. The Tourism Development Commission advised the City Council on matters concerning the expenditures of revenues from the transaction privilege tax on transient lodging, that is the bed tax, designated for tourism development. There's one industry position vacancy and one Scottsdale hotelier position vacancy, and 2 nominees. The nominees are Chris Montgomery, he's the industry rep nominee, and Richard Newman, he's the Scottsdale hotelier nominee. Mr. Newman's term has expired and he is eligible for reappointment. We'll start with Chris Montgomery, if you could approach the podium.
Thank you very much, Mayor Ortega and Vice Mayor Janik, and of course, the lovely council members. Again, my name is Chris Montgomery. I've lived in Scottsdale now 27 years. Originally hailed from Chicago, Illinois. It took 1 day's visit to decide my future was going to be in Arizona, and that started in 1990. Since then, I graduated from Northern Illinois University in DeKalb. That's where they invented barbed wire, in case you needed to know. I played college football, and I loved the recruiting process of college football, and I got really, really engaged in that. In the process, I moved all around a little bit before. I trained with Sears Management Training Program. They got me to California, and then eventually I moved here in 1994 to work with the Phoenix Suns. I worked with the Phoenix Suns in the America West Arena for 19 and a half years. I was lucky enough to be a part of starting the many things that happened, from the baseball team to the hockey team. We sold rodeos to the tennis event out in Scottsdale. We did everything that was sports related and venue related that you can possibly think of. I like to refer to those times as my days in Calangeland. We did everything we possibly could to attract people. My role there was sales primarily. And then my last 9 years at the Suns, I managed the premium accounts, which are all the floor seat holders. During that time, I learned how valuable golf was to our community because I had nothing in common with some of the Titans of Arizona, except that I played golf. And so when I had the opportunity, the Arizona Golf Association asked me if I would take a look at a role there, and I did. That happened about six and a half years ago. So I've been with the Arizona Golf Association since then. My experience, like I mentioned, included starting all the teams from the baseball team to the hockey team to the women's WNBA team. I also worked for the NBA and 11 All-Star games, traveled the country in that entertainment capacity. The things that attract me to this particular position are, I do the same thing that the hotels and Scottsdale does. I try to put butts in seats. I did that for so long. In the golf world, I'm trying to attract and support and promote the amateur game for everyone, and also support that with businesses and services through my corporate sales role. The top 3, I'd say the challenges, number 1 is finding a way to make people feel safe again, to travel. Second, I believe, is promoting inclusive and diverse type of events. I had an interesting time during one of the many diversity events I go to, where working for the Suns, I believe I was the only African-American that didn't play there. And it never occurred to me to think about it like that. But a young Black person, woman and male, approached me at one of the diversity meetings and said, you know, I would have never thought to work at place X because there was no one that looked like me there in the executive area. Since then, that's been a huge impact on me, and I've tried to be as involved and as committed to some of the things that allowed someone like myself to get out in front and show people anything's possible. I currently work on the International Golf Administrators Board. That is promoting and supporting golf across the country. I am the only African-American on that board, as you can imagine. And then currently I'm the chair of the SBA, which is the ASU Sports Business and Advisory Committee, and we help guide the sports business community. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, I'm a talker, so I'm happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Chris Montgomery. Does anybody have any questions for him? Thank you. Next, Richard Newman.
Good afternoon, Mayor Ortega, Vice Mayor Janik, and council members. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. My name is Rich Newman. I live at 7647 East Onyx Court in Scottsdale. I've lived there since 2003. I first came here to Scottsdale a while back in 1986, where I was the food and beverage director at the now Saguaro Hotel. It was a DoubleTree back then, and I remember serving lunch to Mayor Drinkwater back then. He was a wonderful man, a gentleman, and he exuded energy and positivity. Along with his inspiration and the way I was enamored with Scottsdale and the magic of the desert, I just found this to be a place where I wanted to be for my forever home. And I've been here and I don't plan on going anywhere. And what I've been honored and privileged to do is to be able to contribute, better late than never, more than I have in my entire life, to this city and in tourism and development. I've served on the board of directors for the Valley Hotel and Resort Association for a number of years. I was on the Tourist Development Committee. I've served as a member and was recently appointed the vice chair of the Tourism Development Committee. But the most exciting appointment and opportunity I've had was to be part of the Citizen Review Committee for the Scottsdale General Plan of 2035. It was a different process because of the pandemic and COVID and restrictions. It was all virtually organized. I never really saw a face, so I had to go online and see who people were, and we listened to voices and we listened to people's contributions and their opinions. And it was absolutely, for me, it was a very fascinating and insightful and a tremendous growth experience. It gave me insight that I never had before. All that goes into a city, all that goes into making a place amazing is what I learned as part of the Citizen Review Committee for the Scottsdale General Plan. So many parts, so many people, so many efforts, so much time, so much energy. And that has really taken me to a higher level of inspiration. I'm sorry to go on and just talk, but I would be honored to have the opportunity to serve another term on the Tourism Development Committee. And I appreciate you having me here today. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Does anybody on council have any questions for him? Okay, thank you. I will now entertain a vote for the Tourism Development Commission. Each council member can vote for 2 nominees. I will start with Council Member Durham.
I would nominate Chris Montgomery and Richard Newman.
Councilwoman Caputi.
Chris Montgomery, Richard Newman.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
Chris Montgomery and Richard Newman.
Councilwoman Milhaven.
Mr. Montgomery and Mr. Newman.
Mayor Ortega.
I vote for Rich Newman and Chris Montgomery.
Councilwoman Littlefield.
Chris Montgomery and Richard Newman.
And myself, Chris Montgomery and Richard Newman. Chris Montgomery and Richard Newman have been appointed. Thank you. And last but not least, we have the Transportation Commission with 2 openings. The Transportation Commission advises the City Council on matters relating to the safe and efficient movement of vehicles, transit, pedestrians, and bicycles. The commission provides a public forum to hear citizen complaints and requests regarding transportation matters. There are 2 nominees and 2 vacancies due to the recent resignation of Donald Porchowski from the commission. The nominees are B. Kent Law. Mr. Law's term has expired and he is eligible for reappointment. And Carrie Wilcoxon. Mr. Wilcoxon will be participating this afternoon's meeting electronically. We will start with B. Kent Law.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, My name is Bikant Lal. I'm a transportation consultant. I've resided at 12652 East Turquoise Avenue, Scottsdale, 85259 for the last 10 years. I retired to this community after a career of teaching and research in Oregon for 34 years. While serving on the Transportation Commission for the last 3 years, I've contributed to developing a futuristic transportation system that's practical, safe, and acceptable to the community. I have reviewed the city's master plan and assisted the Department of Transportation in developing the Transportation Action Plan, TAP, to its final draft. I will continue to contribute to guiding us to more livable environment in our neighborhoods and the city. I have extensive experience in intelligent transportation systems and traffic operations. I have also worked in roadway design, access management, highway capacity and level of service issues. Through professional associations, my experience extends to public transport, bus rapid transit, BRT, public-private partnerships. I'm a resource and help the Commission critically analyze the issues at hand. Commission faces the task of preserving and maintaining the existing infrastructure as resources would be limited for any new infrastructure. Commission's commitment to roundabouts has strengthened during my tenure. Other issues facing the Commission are cool surface treatments and cyclist safety. I'm currently helping the Commission to look at colored pavement markings for bicycle safety near intersections. I would assist the Commission in looking at technology for better signal coordination in future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lal. Does anybody on council have any questions for him? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to Carrie Wilcoxon.
There was a Caputi question.
Pardon me?
Councilwoman Caputi had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it from here. Mr. Lal, Ms. Caputi, Councilwoman Caputi has a question for you. Yeah, sorry, I missed her hand.
So good. Just my own personal curiosity. You mentioned that you were involved in futuristic transportation systems in your resume, and also you just repeated it in your comments. So just what does that mean? I'm curious to hear.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite
You
catch.
mentioned you were involved in helping to design futuristic transportation systems for the city. I was just curious what that's cool. What does that mean?
Looking at technologies for future transportation. Well, there are intelligent transportation technologies that are being used in signal coordination, but they are constantly changing. And that's where I can help because I do have some experience with those.
Okay.
That's what I meant.
I was thinking like Jetsons or something.
And of course, we also trying to expand it to additional intersections which currently do not have cameras or intelligent transportation systems.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Okay, thank you. And again, now we'll go on to Carrie Wilcoxon, who will be participating electronically.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay? Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, now try one more time.
Well, thank you, Madam Vice Chair, or Vice Mayor Janice, Mayor Ortega, and members of the council. I appreciate being considered for this position as in the Transportation Commission. My name is Carrie Wilcoxon. I am a 25-year resident of Scottsdale. My wife and I reside at 6034 East Edgemont Avenue in the southern part of the city. I am a professional engineer working for Arizona Department of Transportation. I am a professional traffic operations engineer and recently was certified as a road safety professional. I am the state traffic safety engineer, and I am thrilled for the opportunity to be considered for this position. I appreciate all the work that has been done by both the council and the commission since I've been in Scottsdale. And I know that the commission has worked very hard to expand the usability of roads and the equitability of the road users. My belief is that the main points of concern going forward would be to continue maintaining the balance between road users, making sure that we still have roads for vehicles, but also accommodate people on bikes, scooters, pedestrians, transit, all kinds of road users. My second concern, or at least my second challenge, would be the future of what transportation means in the city. We are hopefully coming out of the pandemic, and I know that statewide, there are a lot of changes that we're seeing in the road use, and that translates down to how the city roads are being used. And I want to make sure that I can help my part, or to help do my part through the commission to making sure that Scottsdale is prepared for that. And that we continue to maintain safe and accessible roadways. And finally, I would very much like to continue the tradition that has been started by the board members and the council of continuing to listen to people in the citizenry, and also continue to consider all choices and all opinions. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcoxon. Does anybody have any questions for him? Yes, Mr. Durham.
One question I have is, obviously your current employment provides a great deal of experience that would be useful to your role on this commission. But do you envision that your current employment, would there be any conflicts with the city of Scottsdale regarding the Transportation Commission, as between your employment and your role on the commission?
It's a great question. I do oversee a couple of different programs that are statewide. Probably the most visible of which is the Highway Safety Improvement Program, where ADOT provides the opportunity for cities and the state to bid or to propose projects that improve safety. Scottsdale does and has been participating in that program. And while I oversee it, I don't actually vote on the apportionment of it. I just monitor and make sure that the rules of the program are followed, as I would on any other concerns that would come across us with Scottsdale. The other area that potentially has a conflict is when we consider the interaction of the freeway network in the Maricopa County region with the street network of City of Scottsdale. And again, in those conditions, I am primarily an advisory board, and primarily from a traffic safety standpoint. But anything that would constitute a conflict, either now or in the future, I would certainly recuse myself from consideration if I'm appointed to the board. But it's a good question. Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will now entertain a vote for the Transportation Commission. Each council member can vote for 2 nominees. I will start with Councilwoman Caputi.
B. Kent Lal and Carrie Wilcoxon.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
Kent Law and Carrie Wilcoxon.
Councilperson Millhaven.
Mr. Lal and Mr. Wilcoxon.
Mayor Ortega.
Mr. Law and Mr. Wilcoxon.
Councilwoman Littlefield.
Kent Law and Carrie Wilcoxon.
Myself, Kent Law and Carrie Wilcoxon. Councilmember Durham.
Kent Law and Carrie Wilcoxon.
Kent Law and Carrie Wilcoxon have been appointed. Thank you. This concludes our appointment process for today. I would like to thank all of our nominees for their interest in serving on a city board or commission. We are fortunate to continue to receive qualified applicants for the position on our boards and commissions. Even if you were not appointed today, your application will remain on file for consideration at a future date if there are additional vacancies. City staff will contact the individuals appointed this evening and provide them with information on next steps regarding their appointment. The city of Scottsdale is very, very fortunate to have such dedicated and talented individuals who are willing and ready to serve our city. I will now turn the meeting back to Mayor Ortega. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our business. I move to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Littlefield, please vote, register your vote. It's unanimous. Thank you. 2 minutes.
I have a question on 10 item 11. I don't want to
Council members Tammy Caputi,
Here.
Tom Durham,
Here.
Kathy Littlefield,
Here.
Linda Milhaven,
Here.
and Solange Whitehead.
Here.
City Manager Jim Thompson,
Here.
City Attorney Sherry Scott,
Here.
City Treasurer Sonia Andrews,
Here.
City Auditor Sharon Walker,
Here.
and the clerk is present. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, terrific. We have Scottsdale Police Officers Tony Wells and Dustin Patrick, as well as firefighter Amanda Vandermolen here if anyone needs assistance. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all. Well, thank you. We will begin. September is Hispanic Heritage Month, and it's recognized nationally. So we have a proclamation as well, and I will read the proclamation and the contributions of the Hispanic Latino community in our world. Proclamation. Whereas Mexico celebrates Independence Day on September 16th and September 15th is the official Independence Day in Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua, which also gained independence in 1821, 200 years ago. Whereas each year Scottsdale observes National Hispanic Heritage Month, understanding that this region was a part of Mexico until 1848, and whereas Hispanic Americans enrich the state of Arizona and our nation with their rich and vibrant traditions of faith, family, patriotism, work ethic, arts, and culture. And whereas Hispanic Americans are an important part of the culture and the history of Scottsdale, Arizona, and continue to make significant contributions to the allure of Scottsdale. And whereas Hispanic Heritage Month recognizes the contributions of Hispanic and Latino Americans and the many ways their culture has shaped America. Therefore, I, David D. Ortega, Mayor of the City of Scottsdale, Arizona, do hereby proclaim September 15th through October 15th, 2021, as Hispanic Heritage Month in Scottsdale. And I encourage Scottsdale to recognize National Hispanic Heritage Month and celebrate the history, culture, and contributions of Hispanic Americans. I would like to thank the members of Scottsdale, their Diversity Task Force Committee, as well as invite Assistant Police Chief Helen Gandara and Deputy City Attorney Luis Santaella, Solid Waste Services Manager Manny Castillo, Administrative Assistant Cello Leva Allen, and the CIP Budget Manager Sylvia Eidlat and thank you for being here tonight. I want to join you all. It's not quite Cinco de Mayo, but it's a good midterm celebration. At this point, I will open public comment. Public comment as posted is an invitation for Scottsdale citizens to come forward and speak about any non-agendized item that is within the jurisdiction. So if it is a topic that's on the agenda, that's not open for that. You can speak at that point for that item. I was looking for a public comment, and at this point, I am told that Dan Lundberg has an in-person. So if you could please come forward, state your name, address, and so forth. And thank you, Dan. Yes.
Am I limited to a certain amount of time?
Oh, yes, 3 minutes or less.
Starting in a minute. Hello, my name is Dan Lundberg, 7545 East Alameda Road, Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm a homeowner of Pinnacle Reserve. I'm here to appeal to the City Council and ask that our request for concessions and modifications outlined in the petition presented to you today that we believe are reasonable and necessary to help maintain the quality, safety, quality of life, and property values of our community be considered, accepted, and approved by the City Council and be integrated into the project throughout all phases of the construction of the bridge over Rawhide Wash and the extension of Miller Road. We also request continued ongoing open, productive dialogue between the city and our homeowners and the Homeowners Association of Pinnacle Reserve. We are asking for traffic calming, speed limiting, and traffic safety along Miller Road and Wantaba Road, with emphasis on traffic safety near the school bus stops, mailboxes, sidewalks, bike lanes on Miller Road and Wantaba Road. We're also requesting noise and light abatement throughout Pinnacle Peak Reserve, where numerous homes with view fencing back up to the NEOS land near the location where the bridge and road are to be constructed, and along Miller Road and Wantaba Road and Happy Valley Road, where the homes with view fences back up to these roads, that will see a huge increase in traffic, noise, and light once the Miller Road extension project is completed. Therefore, we ask the City Council to work with us to integrate these solutions as we have requested in the petition, and thank you for your consideration in this matter. In addition to our petition requests, recently we had a look at the Transportation General Plan, and we learned that when Miller Road is continued north of Happy Valley Road, it changes from a major collector to a minor collector, one-lane road in each direction, just on the other side of Happy Valley Road. In Pinnacle Reserve, Miller Road is designated as a 4-lane major connector, is only a quarter of a mile long and presently terminates at Happy Valley Road. We would like to ask the council if we can discuss this further, and if you'll consider changing the designation of Miller Road in the community of Pinnacle Reserve to a minor collector. As a minor collector, dividing the sidewalks from the roadway by several feet, decorative landscaping, being more consistent with the architectural design of the majority of communities throughout North Scottsdale. And more importantly, it will provide a much better safety for our pedestrians using the sidewalks and bike lanes in Pinnacle Reserve. We don't understand why there is a need for a 4-lane major collector for the short half-mile distance from Pinnacle Peak Road to Happy Valley Road, and ask that Miller Road be the same minor collector designation and follow the same architectural design and ensure safer traffic flow through our community and be consistent with the Miller Road north of Happy Valley Road, and ask the council for further consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lundberg. We are in receipt of the petition, and we will take some action as item number 32 later in the program. Our next in-person comment is from Sonny Kirtley, and then we will have French Thompson.
Good afternoon, Mayor Ortega and council members. Sonny Kirtley, 8507 East Highland. You know, Scottsdale is a unique community because many of our homeowners have guest houses and casitas on their property. They take these standalone buildings and they rent them for the Arabian Horse Show, Barrett Jackson, short-term people that are going to Mayo Clinic, and other special events. The rent can be from 1 week to several winter months. This is very different from the other short-term rentals that we have because the homeowner stays in the property. And so it's much more stable than what we're experiencing in our other 5,000 short-term rentals. Code enforcement currently has been knocking on doors and delivering code violations to these private homeowners for renting out their casitas and guest houses. They already have registered, the ones that I've talked to have registered at both the city and the county. So they did declare that they have a rental on the property. Unfortunately, we have ordinance 5.02 that says you can only rent the whole house, the whole property. You cannot rent outbuildings, guest buildings, casitas. It has to be the whole property. Well, one way around that would be to rent the casita and then let the people have you rent the house for nothing, but that's not the way the life works. So may I respectfully recommend that this city council reevaluate the inconsistency of the rental ordinance 5.02 when absolutely no record of public nuisance or lack of public safety has been reported on casitas and guest homes being rented. These are responsible homeowners and they deserve the right to rent their casitas and guest house. Thank you.
Thank you. Now French Thompson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. Most of the time when I come up here, I'm reacting to something. And as a private citizen, unfortunately, what happens is we don't know all the things that are going on in the background before it comes in front of you. And I just want to say that I've got a great deal of respect for your office, the fact that you were elected by the citizens of this city. It's not a job that I want. It's not a job that I want to do. I very much appreciate that you all want to do that and you're all voted in to do this job. And I really do want to thank you for that. Many times I might disagree with you, but I still respect the office that you have. There was a former councilwoman that I would go have breakfast with. And I just want to tell you what, I disagreed with almost 95% of what she had to say, but also know that she was trying to do what she thought was the best thing for the city. I disagreed with her, but as a one-to-one conversation between the two of us, we had so much more in common than those things that we disagreed on. I think we all would like to see a very vibrant, wonderful, dynamic city of Scottsdale. I disagree with the density that's coming. I disagree with a lot of the other things that will come with the density and the pollution and the heat island and the water that we won't have in the future. I really think right now, if somebody says we don't have issues with water, that's like somebody in California 10 years ago saying we don't have a problem with wildfires. There's just things I see that are going in the future, and I can disagree with you and you can disagree with me. I do totally respect your office. I do respect that you're there trying to do the best thing you can. And I just want to let you know that there's an awful lot of citizens that don't come up here, that don't speak in front of you, that feel very strongly about the things that are going on in the city. And I talk to these people and I try to come up here and represent what those people are saying. So I'm going to disagree with you. And many of the things that are going to happen is I'm going to come up that I'm reactive because I don't know all the things that are going on in the background. In a jewelry competition, many times I look at this stuff and I said, how come this junk won first place? But I never got to see all the really terrible stuff that they were competing with for them to be able to get first place. So I do know that there's projects that don't ever come here that are so much worse than the ones that I disagree with. So thank you, thanks city staff, everybody that's putting in their time and energy to try to keep Scottsdale a wonderful place to live. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see no other online or in person, so I will close. Excuse me, is there any other in person? I believe not, so I will close public comment. And excuse me, did you have a, sir? Okay, we will have the clerk double check and get right back to you here. Okay, again, those were, so I will close public testimony on non-agendized items. Next, we have the approval of the minutes, which were for the August 24th, 2021 regular council meeting. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor and a second by Councilwoman Solange Whitehead. Please register your vote. Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, next we have the consent agenda items, originally posted as items 1 to 31. And there are two opportunities. One is for a possible change of a consent agenda item to move it to regular discussion, which would be the regular agenda. I understand that item number 16 has been requested, and therefore I will move that onto the regular agenda. However, also, this is an opportunity to get any public comment on the other items. I can also clarify that item number 25, which was posted, has been pulled by staff. I believe it was 25. So yeah, so 25 is not going to be heard today on either agenda, and it was vacated. So at this point, we do have the opportunity to open any comment which the council may have about consent, the remaining consent agenda items. I will point out that I have received, so let me ask first of all if council has any questions of any of the items, and I see Councilwoman Whitehead and then Councilmember Millhaven.
Thank you, Mayor. Due to the number of speakers on item 21, I would like to see that pulled onto the regular agenda. And I had a comment on item 12, but I don't see any reason to pull that. But I can either wait for the public comment on item 12, or I can speak to it now.
We're open to hearing because we'll then be pulling, asking for public comments on any consent items. So if you have just a general comment on item number 12, please do so.
Yeah, I would. And I see the development team is here. So anybody who's developed in Scottsdale knows that, our residents aren't exactly wallflowers. If we don't like something, we usually do speak up. And so such was the case with item 12. There was a lot of opposition to the project, and I am just so pleased with how the development team handled it. Not only the development team, but our staff, every issue. And as always, it's just there are legitimate issues that residents have when a development is impacting their neighborhood. And this development team handled those issues beautifully. The neighbor, as our neighbors usually are, they were very reasonable. And then there was one final adjustment we needed at the staff side, and staff within a few hours approved that as well. So it was a great pleasure to be part of that project. Thank you.
Okay, sticking with item number 12, the Hawkins, which Councilwoman Whitehead spoke of. We have one request to speak from Frank Costilla. And so if you are in person, please come forward and thank you. State your name and so forth.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. My name is Frank Costilla. I live at 11348 East North Lane here in Scottsdale. I'm one of the 3 properties that is adjacent to the Hawkins project. And I must say, I purchased my property in 2008. From 2008 to present, we still do not know who or what our neighbors are going to be. I have been, we'll call it, exposed to 3 possible developers. And I use the term exposed because the experience was not very pleasant. It's the only thing I can say. One of the developers actually asked for a donation of property so that he could complete a section of the project. The second actually dictated everything he was going to do, how he was going to do it, and how I was going to like it. The third was even better. At the end of his dictation to me, he told me that he did not hope that I used my 2nd-story balcony too much. So it was a not good experience. This current developer, Hawkins, took the time, made the effort to work with the neighborhood. Due to some unforeseen circumstances, a very negative initial response came from the neighbors. Not sure why, still don't know why. However, the company worked with all of the neighbors, worked in particular with the 3 adjacent neighbors, and we were able to develop a development restriction agreement, which was signed and agreed upon, and we're all very pleased with what has transpired. So I'd just like to make that known that they did work with us very well, and we, the 3 who have the agreement, are very, very much in favor of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Sticking with the, thank you, sir, very much. No, we're fine. Just sticking with the same subject project. I did observe it as it went through DR and planning. My observation was that it did retain the commercial aspects and had a substantial buffering to the residential. So it maintained at least a 2/3, well, 1/3 commercial use. So I thought that was very good. With that, I also have a request from Councilmember Millhaven, I believe item number 11.
And thank you. I just have a question for staff. So item number 11 is the sports field municipal use site plan. And it's my understanding that in addition to this site plan, we continue to work on drainage issues in this area. And I just want to confirm that we're continuing to find drainage solutions and working collaboratively with the nearby property owners to find a solution to the drainage issues.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Millhaven, and members of City Council, the answer is yes, we are, and we will continue. We have multiple phases of the project, not only that, but then upstream and downstream. So we're coordinating all those and are working with some of the neighbors now on the downstream portion.
Thank you very much.
And just to clarify, that is item number 11, Westworld Sports Fields Municipal Use Master Site Plan. I do have a gentleman, Mike Leary, who wishes to speak on item 11, again on consent agenda. Go ahead, Mike.
Can I get the overhead turned on, please? Okay, you read it? My name is Mike Leary. I'm a Scottsdale resident. I live in McDowell Ranch for the last 22 years. I've been involved in commercial real estate development in Scottsdale exclusively for 40 years. I've been driving by this property for over 22 years, wondering when is this underutilized or non-utilized asset going to be turned into something. I'm so thrilled that finally the property has been put under a really positive involvement. There's one thing that's really missing though. And if that thing had been working, I could actually show you that we've had historically over probably half that time, the water's not draining. The drainage of that basin is almost as large as 2.5 soccer fields. And the water does not dissipate. It used to do a pretty good job, but now the water can stand for up to months. There is a requirement by the city that the water basically evaporate or be dealt with within 36 hours. That's standard. We've not seen that. There's been complaints about mosquitoes, and every time ADEC comes out, they'll say, well, we don't have any evidence of any mosquito larvae on it. It's more than an attractive nuisance. It's really an underutilization of another big piece of property. But more so is that the only time I took a picture October 12th that I was going to show you this beautiful picture of this beautiful lake. And then 3 weeks later, last Sunday, I took another picture showing how it had dissipated almost to nothing. And there was one reason why it wasn't there for months, is that the city was pumping the lake dry and putting it into the city sewer system. Now, I don't know if that's copacetic or not. I certainly couldn't do it as a commercial developer, but as part of the park development, this seems like a perfect opportunity to address it. I'm sure that the bond money is all tapped out, but at the same time, it's leaving this one big piece unaddressed. So what I would hope from the council is that there be some type of direction saying, we're not going to just kick that can down the road. We're going to fix the problem and hopefully find something else to put in there that again can be a real benefit to the community. One last item is that the exit onto Thompson Peak, when you're leaving on the south end of the park, you got to take a U-turn. And it's kind of contorted. There's a lot of tire rubbing on the curb. I was hoping too, as part of the development of the park site, that could be addressed as part of the park development. It isn't a fatal flaw, but with now the number of trips that are going to be coming down there, the issue isn't going to get any better. So I'm just hoping that this issue doesn't die with my drawings and that something will come of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your suggestions. Once again, we are on the consent agenda. I just want to clarify that at the request of council, item number 16 and item 21 will be moved to the regular agenda. There are individuals that wish to speak to those. At this point, I show Councilwoman Littlefield and then Vice Mayor Janik, if you had a comment on any consented items.
Thank you, Mayor. That's what I wanted to request was moving 16 and 21 to regular.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Janik.
I wanted to thank Councilperson Milhaven and Mr. Leary for bringing up the drainage problems in the area where the soccer fields are going in. I live in that area and there is a huge problem with mosquitoes. So I will promise to you that I will work on this issue so that we can get a good resolution. And I know that we can solve it. And so let's hope that it's solved in the near future. So thank you.
So at this point, I would request a motion to approve items 1 through 30, excuse me. Consent items except for number 16 and number 21, and item number 25 was vacated. Do I have a motion on consent items?
So move.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second from Mr. Durham. Please register your votes. Thank you. That's unanimous. So we will now go to our regular agenda. And in particular, we will be hearing the case for item number 16 and then followed by 21. 16 is the right-of-way acquisition for Camelback Road Sidewalk Improvement Project. And our presenter is Mr. Dan Worth with Capital Improvements. Director. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a very quick presentation on the Camelback Sidewalk project. You can see the extent of the project on the graphic. We're building a sidewalk or improving a sidewalk on the north side of Camelback Road from 73rd Street on the west to Miller Road on the east. And the improvements, I'm going to show you some shortcomings that we're going to be addressing, but what we intend to have when we're done is an 8-foot wide sidewalk with appropriate accessibility features at all the driveways and intersections. Next slide, please. This is what I mentioned, some of the shortcomings. We have, you can see on the left, some areas where the sidewalk is insufficient in width. Most of the sidewalk on the north side of this segment of Camelback was built with individual houses and individual development over a period of 30 plus years. So different standards applied at different times. In some cases, we have 4-foot wide sidewalks. You can look on the right. There are cases where we don't have sidewalks at all. We did not require home builders to build a segment of sidewalk in front of their property when the property originally developed. One of my favorites is on the lower right where we've got a sidewalk to nowhere. Sidewalk across one house's frontage and nothing on either side of it. So that's what we're looking to address. And it's an important issue because we do get a lot of pedestrian traffic on Camelback, particularly on weekends. And we want to keep them on the sidewalk and not in the street. Next slide, please. This particular property is one of those gaps. And I show this one specifically because I know the Vice Mayor forwarded an email to us last week about a particular, an individual resident that was concerned about the project and the right of way that we were looking for. This is that particular parcel. And you can see there's a gap. The city owns the right of way about 6 or 7 feet back, actually 8 feet back from the curb. So we've got the right of way to build the sidewalk. What we don't have is room for the construction workers to actually do their work. And that's what this action is mostly about. It's acquiring temporary construction easements so that we can place the formwork and we can stand next to the sidewalk as we're building it and be able to get that done. What we're looking for on this particular property is to get a 5-foot wide strip of temporary construction easement adjacent to where the sidewalk is going to go. And that temporary easement is just that temporary. We aren't going to put any improvements in it. If we have to remove any features of the resident's property, we'll put them back, particularly the raised edge to the planter that you can see there. And that's how we're going to treat all of these temporary construction easements along the length of this project. We have a very small amount of right of way that we're acquiring for permanent improvements, places where we need it to put the sidewalk. But most of this is just to give room for the contractor to work. Next slide, please. You have already actually approved right of way acquisition for this project. We had an action in January. And as part of that approval, you can see the quantities. The resolution that you approved granted us the ability to make changes. This is a standard practice that we do. We include in the resolution, but it limits our ability to make changes. And that's because we don't want to drastically change the nature of the project and the right way that we're acquiring for it without letting you have a say. So the resolution says if we have to acquire 20% or more greater square footage than what the resolution that you approved in January granted us, then we have to come back. And that's what we're doing. Because of those temporary construction easements, we bumped the number up greater than 20% more than what you approved in January. And then at the bottom of the last bullet, if you approve this, we are still going to negotiate with every individual property owner. We reimburse property owners for the easement rights that we get. We address specific issues like in that picture that I showed you. We are going to address the issues, the vegetation that we might have to remove and replant, or the edge of the planter that we may have to move. We actually have had a conversation with that property owner. Happened yesterday, our project manager, and he's arranged an appointment for the project manager and our contractor to go out on site and talk specifics, every brick, every piece of vegetation with that property owner. And we'll extend the same courtesy to anybody else that that is concerned that we're going to be doing damage to their property. That's the last thing that we want to do. So that's the end of my presentation. I'd be happy to address any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Worth. I do not see any hands up from the council, so I would go to public comment. We have Jane Peterson and then Jude. No. Please come forward and tell us your name, address, and we have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Mayor Ortega and council members. My name is Jane Peterson, and I am that property. My family has lived at 7408 East Camelback Road for over 40 years. The city passed Resolution 1/2014 authorizing right-of-way acquisition for the Camelback Road Sidewalk Improvement Project and is planning on putting the 8-foot sidewalk in front of my property. Being a part of this community, I have a desire to see the city make improvements. However, the initial replacement offer doesn't reflect what's needed to rectify this improvement by replacing the security, privacy, driveway use, accessibility, and landscaping on my property. These changes would impact me as a homeowner by increasing security and privacy issues with more foot traffic, decreasing the turning radius for the driveway and parking, limiting the area for landscape by removing brickwork, sprinklers, and 40-year-old trees. It would also decrease the square footage for restricting the ability for future improvements. The replacement offer doesn't consider what's needed to rectify this improvement. To do that, what needs to be replaced is a wall for security and privacy, gates to remedy the decreased turning radius and parking, landscaping to replace the trees, brickwork, and sprinklers. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next, we have Jude now, hotelier extraordinaire.
Mayor and City Council, my name is Jude Now. I own and live at the Best Western Plus Sundial at 7320 East Camelback Road, 100 yards or so just west of Ms. Peterson's property. Earlier on in the meeting today, I heard a comment, a significant buffering to the residential. And Ms. Peterson has a fairly significant buffering to the largest nightclub district in the southwest of the United States. And that is the trees that you saw in the earlier image. Right from the beginning of this project, there was no outreach, similar to a development project. So the city of Scottsdale is the developer here. It would have saved this meeting if we would have had a stakeholder meeting, if all the property owners got together in a room and said, this is the plan and how is it going to impact you property owners, and get that input at that time. I know with COVID, the staff's reached out in other ways. This time it just fell a little bit short. As a business, we support pedestrian access, and the more the better. There needs to be free flow and safe movement of people on foot. However, unfortunately, in front of Ms. Peterson's property, with this improvement, it's going to degrade that significant buffer to the largest nightclub district in Southwest United States. And as much as we support this sidewalk going in and this improvement, we have to hold back and wait till this is addressed. She did mention wall, gates, whatever's required to remedy the situation. So there is a significant buffer there. So, and final, I think the city needs to make some sort of change, and the earlier on the temporary easement, that's not the issue. And we could talk about that all day and throw 3 slides up on the screen where this thing isn't working. But the location in front of Ms. Peterson's house, I think that needs to be reevaluated. And where she has her trees, she mentioned they're over 40 years old. I'm sure the Peterson household has been there since Camelback Road was a dirt road. So that's got to be taken into consideration. And if the city were to incorporate that into the plan, then we could really support this 100%. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public comment. I have a request from Councilwoman Whitehead to discuss, and then I will look for a motion.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I am curious about the trees. I think there's more to this. The idea of making Camelback ADA compliant is very important. Pedestrian, we want pedestrians to be able to flow easily, and this is not the case now, but it does seem that we might have to make some adjustments in order to take into account the property. I think we can accomplish the goal of the city and ADA compliance, but possibly with some adjustments. I actually would like to make a motion to continue item 16, and so that the council has more information about possible opportunities to save the trees or protect the property as well as build the sidewalk. That's my recommendation, and that's my motion.
I second that motion.
Yes.
Okay, let's have some discussion. That was seconded by Councilman Littlefield. And I see Councilmember Durham wants to discuss it well. Councilman Littlefield, did you have something to add to your second?
Yeah, I think Vice Mayor and I kind of seconded it together at the same time. But that's basically my concern with this, is not putting in wider sidewalks. That's fine. But it's the lack of buffering here for the house and the possibility of danger, because you're removing a lot of the safety that's in front of her house by putting the sidewalk in, and you're basically inviting people in by doing this. So I think that there needs to be some more consideration on that. I think this project could degrade her home and her value. It actually is a taking of land from her. And I think that needs to be a higher priority and consideration that the city has done so far. We're talking about right across from the bar district here. And there's some, I'm sure, activities that go on in the dead of night that are very interesting, but possibly she doesn't want more of them. So I would like to put this on a continued basis where we can talk with her and we can wait to see what changes that we can come up with to make this safer. And that's one of my biggest concerns, is safety at night. And also where she feels like she is more comfortable in this, and that the project itself will not degrade or lower the value of her home. Thank you.
Councilmember Durham.
The pictures that Mr. Ward showed were much more helpful than the materials that we have in the agenda. Weren't particularly helpful in trying to figure out what's going. Where did you show the pictures? No, that's okay. But those were, I'm just saying, those were much more useful than the materials in our packet, because it's very difficult. I can never read these architectural drawings and so on. So the pictures would be much more useful in figuring out possible solutions here. And if I understand correctly, that there hasn't been very much from both Ms. Peterson and Mr. Now, it sounds like there hasn't been enough communication on possible alternatives. So I would support the motion for the continuance also, because I think that it sounds to me as if there needs to be more communication, although I'm sure we'd like to hear that from Mr. Worth also. And I would also like on the next presentation have more pictures, and so that we can understand exactly what's going on here in terms of where, I mean, obviously we need to have a sidewalk. I think that's true, but we also need to find a way to make that necessary sidewalk less of a detriment to the property. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I'm just going to insert my own opinion here. And then we have Councilwoman Caputi asking. So there are several properties that are involved, and those adjoining properties appear not to have any objections. So as we're looking at a corner lot or this lot, it is certainly a unique case, and I can understand why that can be studied a little further and worked out. But at the same time, remember that we have a liability as a city where the further down you go, closer, going west on Camelback, then people trip and fall and they sue the city all the time. And they'll say, why didn't you get that part done? So it would be kind of my recommendation to continue this one section, but really proceed so we can get this thing rolling and get this accomplished as soon as possible. That's what I would prefer to do rather than put a hold on that entire section. There's some other very awkward areas that could easily be alleviated. And all we're really looking at is the acquisition of the right-of-way to complete the other sections. And I think we have to have some sort of urgency when there is a liability situation. Okay, that's kind of my 2 cents. If that, Councilwoman Caputi and then Councilwoman Whitehead.
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, I think that was a pretty good point. Mr. Worth, I think you said this is really just, you're going to take the trees away and then we're going to construct what needs to happen and then everything's going to be replaced, correct? It's not that we're removing the buffer for the neighbor, we're just taking it out, doing the necessary construction and then moving everything back. So it's a temporary annoyance, but it will be replaced.
In Councilwoman Caputi, in this particular case, I will be able to confirm this in a few days when we walk on site with the contractor and take a look at it. But I don't think any trees have to come out. I think that there are some, the smaller plants that are behind that brick edging it may have to. Again, I've got to verify it on the ground. And if they do, we'll replace them with something, not a little twig in a 2-gallon bucket. We'll replace it with something of substantial size. So you still have the same kind of shielding.
Right, because I mean, of course, we would never advocate for taking value from a resident, but again, the way I heard this was it's more of a construction issue that we need to adjust for and then place back. So, okay, thank you, that helps.
Thank you, Councilwoman Whitehead, and then Vice Mayor Janik.
Okay, first of all, that's good news, Dan. And the reason I want to continue it is because Dan is incredibly creative and we don't want to be pulling out 40-year-old trees because those actually can't be easily replaced. But I will accept the mayor's friendly, amendment to my motion. And I would ask to continue just this one section so we can have a bit more information and have more dialogue, but continue with the rest of the item.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Ms. Littlefield, is that okay with you? Or okay, so we would hold the entire run just because of this one section. Okay. Well, the form is that the motion has been made to continue item number 16, and the second is as such. We will, Councilwoman Whitehead, did you still have?
I just don't like things to go slow. You know, government has this bad reputation of being slow. How quickly can we turn this around and get it back on if we're going to hold the whole item until we review it? Can we get it back pretty quickly? That's a question, I guess, for our city manager and for Mr. Worth.
I'm hoping that we can resolve Ms. Peterson's issues within the next 2 weeks.
Okay, Mr. Thompson, could we get it back on an agenda in 2 weeks or the next meeting?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, yes. We could add it to the October meeting. It won't be prepared before next week. I would suspect we would come back at one of the October meetings. We do have 3 scheduled in October, so we would try to hit one of those depending on timelines associated with it. But that would be the soonest we could bring it back.
Is that going to slow things down much, Mr. Orth?
It doesn't kill the project by any stretch of the imagination. We can live with that.
Perfect. Thank you.
I have a request from Councilman Littlefield.
I'm good with that. If we can bring it back in October and have these issues resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Discussion is completed. Please register your vote. It's unanimous to continue. Thank you. Next, we will move on to item number 21. Item 21 has to do with an acceptance of funding, which is an intergovernmental agreement with the Maricopa County Association of Governments for project administration and reimbursement to the city of Proposition 400 regional transportation sales tax funds for the eligible costs that have been outlined. Mr. Worth will continue with that presentation. Thank you.
Yes, Mayor. I don't have any slides for this one, but this is dealing with the extension of the road and the Miller-Hayden Road alignment between Pinnacle Peak and Happy Valley. You've heard a lot about it over the last 6 months. This is just one of the necessary steps to further the project. And as the mayor mentioned, what this particular action does is it doesn't have anything to do with the design, doesn't have anything to do with the construction, doesn't have anything to do with what the project looks like itself. This merely is a formality that allows us to get reimbursed for money that we're spending on design and eventually construction of the project. The Maricopa Association of Governments through the Arterial Life Cycle Program is going to pay 70% of the design and construction costs, to include roughly $460,000 of design costs that we've already spent. Without this agreement, we don't get that reimbursement. We spend our own money and only our own money. So I just wanted to make sure that that was, everybody shared the understanding of exactly what this action is, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I see no council requests. So at this point, I will ask for public comment. We have 2 by telephone and 3 in person at this point. So I would turn it over to our Shane Stone, or the manager's office, handling the remote comments.
Thank you, Mayor Ortega and members of the City Council. This is Shane Stone with the City Manager's Office. For remote public comment, we will be going to Lori Lundberg. Ms. Lundberg, please press *6 on your device and begin your public comment.
We show Lori Ann Lundberg, and we have Matthew Tinty. Are you there?
Ms. Lundberg, you should now be able to press *6 on your device to begin your comment. Mayor Ortega, it appears we do not have Ms. Lundberg on the line currently, and Mr. Tinty has not been able to join us. So with that, that concludes the virtual public comment, and I will turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Mayor, I apologize. We can move to the in-person now.
All right, let's do the in-person. And I show Frederick White, followed by Scott Smith in person. Please state your name, address, and then 3 minutes. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Get my papers.
Thank you very much. My name is Frederick White, 7426 East Christmas Troya Drive in Scottsdale. Good evening, council. We have submitted a petition this evening to try and keep our Pinnacle Reserve community safe and peaceful in the event that you do decide to proceed with the Miller Road extension. I've collected a lot of signatures on this. I will tell you right now, if it weren't the middle of a pandemic and 108 degrees, I could have 200 signatures on that thing that I turned in tonight. I've been in contact with this group here tonight many times via email and have attended numerous city Zoom meetings in relation to the project. It seems to our community that the city is content to take a wait and see approach with how this invasive project will impact our quality of lives in Pinnacle Reserve. We feel it is much better to get protective measures now while the project budgets are being set than it will be to be back here in 5 years after an incident takes place. The noise and traffic studies that we have seen don't make sense and don't appear to be applicable to the reality of the situation that the city intends to build a brand new Scottsdale Road through the center of our Pinnacle Reserve neighborhood. We've heard many other statements out of the city with relation to flood insurance, condemnation of our property that make us very concerned. In general, a lot of the homeowners that are original homeowners dating back to the late 90s have been told numerous times through the years that this project would never even come to fruition. Just as recently as the spring of 2021 in a transportation committee meeting, we were told that we would have an opportunity to protest the project formally before a city no-go vote, and that once the plans were at 60%, there would be another public transportation committee meeting. That is the point where we thought we would need legal representation. We did not find out about this meeting until just recently, at which point we scrambled to get the petition together and retain legal counsel. Our attorney has prepared a statement for us. Our attorney, Clint Goodman, with Goodman, Holman, Grant, and Smith. Clint was not able to be here to attend, but it is my impression that he did submit this to you guys in a formal manner. He wanted me to let you know that the board has approved opposition and his office supports our opposition to that. This is his statement from Clint. To whom it may concern, this firm represents Pinnacle Peak Reserve Homeowners Association. Recently, our members expressed their grave concerns regarding the proposed Miller Street connection project and the negative impacts it will have on our entire community. The association's board of directors recently voted to authorize additional action on behalf of the board and the community to oppose the project. We are currently reviewing all available records related to the project and engaging with outside counsel to proceed with that directive. At this time, we respectfully request that the City Council continue any agenda items related to this project to allow additional time for negotiations between the city and our representatives, as well as other impacted citizens. We feel that additional time is necessary to address the substantial issues that our members have brought to the city's attention, including traffic control and calming, noise abatement, flooding, general safety, privacy of adjacent residential properties, and the natural area open space concerns. We also understand that the city has suggested that additional right-of-way or easements on association property may be necessary as part of the project's design. It is concerning that the city's real estate department has not contacted the association's representatives at this point in the project to discuss this potential infringement on association property. One last sentence. Thank you for consideration of our request to continue this agenda item. We look forward to working with the city on an appropriate solution to these issues in a manner that is beneficial to all involved. Signed, Clint Goodman. Thank you.
Next, we have Scott Smith and then Nicole Forbes.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Scott Smith, and I'm one of the many countless North Scottsdale residents that will be impacted by the proposed Miller Road expansion. First off, I want to acknowledge, I know that public outreach is difficult to begin with, let alone in the COVID world we live in. However, the city's outreach on this project has simply fallen short. I'm typically an informed North Scottsdale resident. I know very little about this project. I should also note that the initial meeting in the Transportation Commission on this topic occurred in May on the same evening as graduation for Pinnacle High School. So lots of parents that would have wanted to attend simply couldn't. I can safely say the same thing applies to the proposed expansion that's under discussion as well with Happy Valley between Scottsdale and Pima. Very few residents, and I happen to know many residents in the Happy Valley Ranch neighborhood, and none of them are aware of these proposals, simply unaware. Moreover, at the May 20th meeting, the commission agreed to move forward with design and return to the commission with an update. I'm not aware that this update has occurred, yet the council is here considering approving the use of Prop 400 monies for this project. I would submit that we should have a better understanding of these projects and their impact on our communities and neighborhoods before authorizing the use of any monies. We live in North Scottsdale. These are our neighborhoods. And we recognize that both the city and the state are growing at a tremendous clip and that progress comes at a cost. But that growth and progress needs to occur in proper fashion and needs to consider the impact these projects will have on your constituents, our neighborhoods, the city's future planning, our home values, traffic, noise, the list goes on. None of this has happened in this instance, and I'm disappointed, and the residents I have spoken to are disappointed about that. Also, we don't understand the sense of urgency to move forward with this project. These capital improvements are simply going to shift dumping traffic from Pinnacle Peak onto Happy Valley Road now. Moreover, the state trust land north of Happy Valley has not been auctioned off, and I'm not aware of any pending auction, so we don't understand the need to initiate these projects so expeditiously. I'd also like to learn more about the other funding sources for the Miller expansion project. I know the city seeks to use the Prop 400 monies, but I do not recall these projects ever being listed as infrastructure projects in the city's previous bond elections. So again, I'd respectfully request that the mayor and the council give more serious consideration to the impact these projects will have on our communities before authorizing this funding. For these and many other reasons, I ask that you vote no against this authorization. In closing, thank you for allowing me to speak and for your kind consideration of my remarks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
very
sir.
much. We also have Nicole Forbes.
Good evening, everyone. Nicole Forbes, proud resident of Pinnacle Reserve at 7561 East Alameda Road. I come to you this evening unprepared, unknowing that I would speak this evening, but so proud that my fellow neighbors have become so aware and made the rest of us aware at such a last minute to be able to be in front of you today. So thank you. I come to you as a mother, a homeowner, an investor, a real estate agent, who takes a lot of pride in our home and what we consider our community, our neighborhood. In a time in the world where some of us, that's all we have, and that's what we're leaning on. We ask you to keep us safe, our bus stops safe. We want to attend the graduations that did in fact keep me from being informed at the last meeting because my daughter did just graduate from Pinnacle High School. I've walked through this desert to take my children to Pinnacle Peak Elementary. We have wonderful schools, residents, and safe neighborhoods, and we want to keep them that way. We ask you to, what I would love, get rid of this whole project, but at the very least delay and allow our neighbors, our community to band together to try to figure out the best approach and hopefully stop this. I actually back to this wash. We see the javelina, the coyotes, the beautiful owls that sweep through this wash back behind my home. And I actually am the one with that view fencing that looks at those beautiful McDowells. I know I may be more directly impacted personally, but we want to attend graduation parties, not open houses because people are fleeing our neighborhood. We want to attend birthday parties, not funerals because someone got hit by a speeding vehicle. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and please help us keep our community safe and take a serious look at this project and the impact it will have on everyone within the neighborhood surrounding. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I will circle back because there were two telephone contacts that had tried. I don't know if they've got through on this subject. If not, we'll move on to our own discussion and then a motion. And I asked Shane Stone if he's able to recontact those two on my list.
Hi, Mayor Ortega and members of the City Council, this is Shane Stone. We can try Ms. Lundberg
Going
again.
once, going twice. Thank you. Let's move to Vice Mayor Janik and then Councilwoman Whitehead.
This question is for Dan Worth.
Okay, this is Lori.
I'm curious, the allocation of the funds for this project, is there a time restraint on the allocation of the funds? Or does it expire at a certain day in the future?
There is no formal time constraint, but if we go, X number of years without spending the funding, this program, the MAG 400 program, is coming to an end. Maricopa Association of Governments could potentially look to reallocate unspent funds at some point in time. They stop collecting these funds in 2025.
Okay, so I guess what I'm hearing is we probably have some time, 6 months, a year, 2 years, maybe even, to work through some of the details on this before we have to make a final decision.
Well, our intention is to work through the details. It's the stage that we're at now in the design of the project. You heard some of the speakers talk about coming back to the Transportation Commission. You heard some talk about our real estate group not going out and talking with them yet. It's because we haven't gotten that far in the design. We've gotten a lot of input. We've been getting public input for 8 months on this project. And we are looking at ways to incorporate as much of it as we possibly can. As we continue to go through that process of listening to the input and coming back to the Transportation Commission, coming back potentially to open houses and public meetings, addressing individual comments that we get from residents that are concerned about this, we hope to make the project acceptable. And that's the timeline that we're on, is to continue that design process so that we can potentially be building it in about a year.
Can you continue with this design process without additional funds at this point in time?
If this particular action is not approved, we could continue, and it would be spending the city's money. What we would be doing would be delaying the opportunity to have the county keep its promise and pay 70% of the design and construction costs.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We did get two more comments coming by telephone. So I think we'll take them now and then return to our council discussion.
Thank you, Mayor Ortega and members of the City Council, and sorry for the communication issues we are having. Ms. Lundberg, if you can press *6 on your device, you should be able to begin your public comment. Ms. Lundberg, if you can hear me, you should be able to press *6 on your device to begin your public comment now. And I apologize, Mayor and members of the City Council. It appears we do not have Ms. Lundberg right now. And as I mentioned earlier, we have not received the call from the other commenter.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Ms. Lundberg.
Oh, great, thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
My name is Lori Lundberg, and I've been a homeowner in Pinnacle Peak Reserve for 24 years. And I signed the petition, and I believe that everything that we're asking for is reasonable and achievable. But in response to Mr. Worth saying that they're in the process of reaching out, if you look on the timeline of the project itself on their website, it shows that we're coming to the end of public comment. So that's concerning because clearly we have a lot of comments to be made. So in corresponding with the Transportation Commission and with some of the other officials that are involved in the project, we send emails, we sometimes get responses, we sometimes don't. And it seems like a lot of the things we are asking for per our petition, have not been addressed. And that's why we're at this point right now. So again, I would like the city to consider our petition as reasonable, and all of, that we're asking for is preservation of our neighborhood, safety of our neighborhood, consideration of our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lundberg. Mayor Ortega and members of the City Council, that does conclude virtual public comment on this item. Thank you.
Okay, at this point, I have Councilwoman Whitehead, and I may have some comment as well. Councilwoman Whitehead?
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Worth. I didn't give you any advance notice that I was going to ask for a presentation. So this is this issue, while I understand that people would like it to be postponed because of questions about the road, this is a financial issue. And so the road will be built, but to date, we've made already so many changes that are very positive because everything you said, I agree with. So the speed limit, the proposed speed limit coming right out of the chute is going to be slower than it was originally. The design of the bridge over the wash is such that it will protect wildlife so that wildlife doesn't even know the road is there. The medians with the trees have been protected, but many of the suggestions that I'm continuing to hear do make sense. And this is just the beginning of a process. It's getting the funding that we need and that we are owed as taxpayers. So I am going to make a motion to approve it, but just assure the residents that I will continue to work with you. The suggestions are good. I have actually spent a lot of time with staff, and it's never enough, but I can tell you staff has been meeting extensively with the neighborhoods. And it's very difficult to reach everybody, but we'll continue to try. So with that, I would like to make a motion to approve consent, our regular agenda item 21, Hayden Road, Miller Road, Pinnacle Peak Road to Happy Valley Road, capital project intergovernmental agreement, and adopt resolution number 12227. Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Durham, do you want to speak to your second? Then Vice Mayor Janik, Councilwoman Littlefield.
Thank you, Mayor. I have not yet taken a hard look at this project. I know it's very controversial. I know that Councilmember Whitehead has spent a lot more time on it than I have. But I do promise, as Ms. Forbes suggested, that I will take a very hard look at this. And I will reach out to everybody who spoke on this tonight. I have your emails and I would like to communicate further with you. Because I do think that there needs to be additional discussion. It's always possible to make something better. And we should continue on that project. But I am supporting the motion for the funding because this agreement does not start the construction. It has nothing to do with the actual construction. It's a necessary element in the planning of this project. And so I am supporting the motion, although I will continue to look at this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Janik, and then Councilwoman Littlefield.
Thank you. I have met with the people involved with this project that live in the community. And I do believe that they have very real concerns that we need to do a better job of addressing. I also agree with my fellow council members that I do believe we need to proceed with the funding. What I want to know, and perhaps legal can give me some advice, is how do we say we want to proceed with the funding, but we want to accept the ask from the petitioners, which pretty much involves talking to them about noise, light, berms, bushes, trees, to relook at the design to make sure that we have done what we can to mitigate noise and traffic, safety calming, et cetera. So is it two separate motions? Or is it, I'm not sure how to proceed.
Mayor,
I believe we'll be acting on the petition, which you're just quoting. So you're just in agreement that that it requires additional design and that effort is going to proceed.
Yes.
The specific ask of the petition is that they be heard and that all those particulars be issued. So
Okay.
we're only dealing with the reimbursement of the time and money that we need to carry on and complete the ask that's in their petition.
Okay, thank you.
So other discussion, Councilman Littlefield?
Yes, thank you. You know, I've lived here a long, long time, and I have known almost all my life that this street was going to go through Miller. It has a sign on the road. It's been there like 20 years, I think. And it's big and it's red. And everybody knew that was the plan for Miller Road to eventually extend out. However, and I don't have a problem with getting the funding to pay for what the city has already done, but I do have a problem with the general feeling that the citizens are not being listened to, because this is going to affect their neighborhoods. And if we're not paying attention, if we're just going to go merrily on our way and build what we want to build, that's not right. We need to work with the citizens. We need to have meetings with them on a regular basis. We need to listen to them. And I'll be a part of that. I'm quite willing to sit there and listen and make sure that we're hearing what they want to tell us. So I think this has a long way to go before we actually pour concrete, because I think we need to get with the citizens, with all of these people who have told us very plainly they're not happy, find out exactly why and what we can do to make it better. Because there's a lot of space out there. There's a lot of movement that can be made on this street. And I think that we need to do it. And Mr. Thompson, I would like you to make sure that that happens. And as I say, I'm very happy to sit in on those meetings with them and listen to what they have to say and talk with Mr. Worth and talk with the citizens and see if we can't get together and make something that we can all live with. So thank you very much.
Councilwoman Caputi?
Agree. Of course, we need to listen to the residents. I've spoken with a lot of the residents already on this case. I actually live in that neighborhood myself. My children go to Pinnacle Peak Elementary and Pinnacle High School, so I'm obviously very concerned as well. I think Councilwoman Whitehead mentioned that she's spoken with residents. I know Vice Mayor Janik has spoken with residents. It sounds like the city has done quite a bit of outreach already, even though we're so still very early in the process. Mr. Worth, how much outreach have we already done? I'm not saying that, I'm certainly not suggesting we stop. I just want to underscore the point that we have done a fairly good job already of reaching out and making sure we hear the concerns. I could probably list most of the items in this petition off the top of my head just from speaking already with residents. I know that I even sat in on a couple actually of Zoom meetings in regards to this item already. So it feels like we're doing a pretty good job already of reaching out and making sure we hear from our residents.
Councilwoman Caputi, I appreciate that observation. You've heard a lot of examples of our outreach. The Transportation Commission agendized this as a separate standalone item to allow public comment, which we got. People did come. We've had a virtual public meeting that was open for resident input. We've taken survey and found a significant number of residents who support the project because it is going to ease traffic in the area. And we do make an effort to address all of the questions that we get by email. And I know that the Lundgrens have submitted many questions to us. Mr. White has several others, and we do try to address all of those. And as some of you have mentioned, we have made modifications to the design already to reflect some of the things that we've heard. There's some things that might be more difficult to do. But we are trying to do everything that we can within reason, within constraints.
Right. I just wanted to underscore that I agree. Of course, we always need to do great outreach, but we are doing a really good job as a city of making sure that we hear from residents, and we will continue to do that. Thank you.
Okay, I do support the motion, and I just want to add one other thing. whenever there is a dead end, for instance, Granite Reef has a canal that stops Granite Reef, and people that, or say Miller, when people are not familiar with that area and they come to a dead stop, they tend to turn into neighborhoods, circulate around, and I know sometimes they gun it on the way out because they're frustrated. They don't know really where they are. So there's by having a continuity in traffic, it's actually when, as anticipated, I think it'll relieve that. I can say that from a motorcycle guy that kept coming by and then gunning it and running through the neighborhood before he figured out he made the wrong turn at a dead end street. So at this point, please register your vote. Thank you, unanimous, and we will move on. At this point in our agenda, we reopened public comment for items that may not have been on the agenda, or excuse me, for citizens to speak on an item which is non-agendized. We had that at the beginning of the meeting. We'll have it at the end. I have not seen any other cards for speakers to add to public comment. Therefore, I will close public comment. Moving on to item number 32, we have received a citizen petition, and as I have received it, and it does pertain to a petition which we are certainly obliged and have accepted on the part of citizens. The citizens have, the council has three options in terms of making a motion. These are being displayed on the screen at the present time. I would highly recommend item number 2 to have the city manager to investigate the matter and prepare a written response to council with a copy to the petitioner. So I would request that. I would make that motion if we can get a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this? Okay, please register your vote. Excuse me, discussion?
No, what's the motion?
The motion is to receive the petition and take the action which was posted. We had one choice: direct the city manager to agendize the petition. Number 2, direct the city manager to investigate the matter and prepare a written response to the council. That's the one I read when I.
That's the motion.
Yes, that is the motion and a second. You're welcome. We have unanimous. Well, let's see. Is this the current one? Correct. Thank you. Thank you very much. And that may have been the old vote tally. And I apologize that some of our system is not working. So please, according to item number 32, register your vote. As it happens, I can see it, so I can say it was unanimous, and so 7-0. Okay, at this point, we are on, are there any mayor and council items for tonight? Seeing none, I will ask for a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you. Second by Councilwoman Caputi. Please register your vote. Okay, unanimous. We are adjourned.